Hey, it's Chris from Novation, and I'm here with the guys at Kytary, and we're going to look at the Circuit Mono Station. Now, the Circuit Mono Station is a wonderful analog synthesizer attached to a fantastically powerful sequencer. Next to the Circuit Mono Station, you'll see that we have our circuit here, and this circuit, you can see, is very similar looking to the Mono Station, but they're actually they're quite different instruments. Whereas the circuit is a complete, if you like, solution for samples and to polyphonic synthesizers, the Circuit Mono Station is actually a mono analog synthesizer. It's based around the same sort of engine that we have with the Base Station 2, but instead of using a keyboard to control and play the synthesizer, we have our sequencer, which is based around a grid here. Now, the architecture of the Mono Station, taking a look at it, is here we have our oscillator section, we have a mixer, we have a filter section with 2 distortion points, and on the post-filter distortion we have 3 different types of distortion we can use. The filter is the same nice filter based on an OTA circuit from the Base Station 2. Up at the top here you'll see that we have our envelope, and our envelope lets us shape the sound. We have an LFO, low frequency oscillator, and again this lets us control and manipulate the sound. But we have here what we call a modulation matrix, and this allows me to send the envelope to various different destinations. So from here I can send the envelope to the pitch, pulse width modulation, the amplifier, the filter, the distortion here, and even a CV output on the back of the Mono Station, which I'll show you in a moment. I can do the same with the LFO, and also I have what we call the sequence here. Now we'll come into the sequence in a moment, but before we look at that, let's look at how we can use the Mono Station to create very quick and simple like melody lines, bass lines, and that sort of thing. So here is my keyboard. And I've changed all the sounds around by my little demo, so I'm going to initialize it. I'm going to press Shift and Patches, and this will now just give me one oscillator here with a sawtooth waveform. I change, you can hear I've got a square wave, and if I hold Shift and use the fine control, I can change the pulse width modulation. Now, to enter notes onto the sequence is super easy. Just hold the position where you want it. So I have 16 steps which represent the sequence, and then I can maybe go down an octave, and then... So I'm just kind of randomly putting notes on here at the minute. And then... So we've just placed notes randomly on there, and if I hit play now, got the nice line there. Again, if I go to my envelope here, I'm going to just apply a bit of envelope to the filter. Bring down the sustain. Get a nice snappy sound, maybe a touch of resonance on there. A bit of overdrive. Now, the Circuit Mono Station has a sub-oscillator, which is an octave below. So you'll need big speakers to hear that. But that's an octave below oscillator 1. But I also have a second oscillator. Now if I go to my second oscillator page, I can now change the sound for that octave as well, change the pitch. Bring that down. Now, you'll see that I also have a sequencer page for oscillator 2. So if I start to, let's just have a look at oscillator 1, get an idea. So I'm going to put some notes on here, and here, and here, and here, and here, and again, just randomly putting the notes on, but hopefully we'll get an idea. So you can now hear the second oscillator. And if I take the oscillator away from the filter, we'll hear that even more. So we've got a separate oscillator sequencer. Although we have, it's a mono synth, we can hear a mono synth line at one time. We have 2 oscillators, and we can treat them separately in the sequencer. Now, if I take the decay right down, let's see, yeah. Now we're just hearing notes when oscillator 1 is triggering them. But if I press Shift and paraphonic, what this does is it allows oscillator 2 to also trigger notes. It's a great way of getting a bit of variety into your music. So that's a very swift and easy way of adding stuff in there, but we've got all of these wonderful features up at the top. It'd be great if we could make use of these. So if I hit record and start to move the filter, we can record that movement. Same with anything that we have on the top panel here. Maybe the decay. Maybe the volumes as well. And if I stop the sequencer, hit record, maybe I can say, okay, let's take out the sub, the oscillator 1 here, add some noise, oscillator 2. Okay, so there we've managed to just create a completely new sound on this step. And on this step, let's bring it all back down, back to normal. So sub oscillator, oscillator 1, oscillator 2. So I've used a step automation here. And what we should find is we get an automation that just means we get a noise sound on this step. I can go further with this, and on this same step, hit record, take oscillator 2 out of the equation there, and bring it back in. So we can use the Mono Station with the automation and all the top control panels to get some very interesting things happening. Now, on the patterns page here, we're just listening to a single pattern. So we have a single pattern here, but we have a choice of 16 for oscillator 1 and a choice of 8 for oscillator 2. So we've got quite extensive pattern coming in. If I go to my pattern settings page, I can change the speed of the patterns. So I can make it even longer by halving the speed. Oscillator 2, however, is still running at the normal speed. I can increase that. So this is independent. And if I go here, perhaps I can just make it random as well. Now you can hear that's going a bit crazy, so perhaps we wouldn't do that normally, but it's just to give you an example of how we can use the settings page there. So that's the Circuit Mono Station. One important thing that we should look at is if I hold this up for you to see, we do have a lot of connectivity on the back of here. USB to connect to your computer, and we have some great software called Circuit Components that will allow you to manage your Circuit Mono Station, your Circuit Mono Station or your circuit. But here we also have CV control. So we have CV and gate. We can use the oscillator 1 sequence as a sequencer for any modular gear that you might have. But I also have an interesting one, aux CV. The auxiliary CV means that on my Circuit Mono Station, I can choose the auxiliary CV and choose to send out the envelope, the LFO, or the modulation sequence to the auxiliary CV destination. This is a very powerful thing and allows me a lot of control coming from my auxiliary CV output. On the back as well, just to finish off, we have clock out and in, MIDI in, out and through, and finally on this one we have an audio input. And that's the last thing I'll just quickly demonstrate to you because it's one of my favourite features on the Mono Station. So I'm going to go for an empty session again, and now I'm going to put a note here, and I'm going to turn, well in fact I'm going to just turn down the oscillator so we don't hear anything. But what I will do is turn up the audio in. Now on my circuit here, I've prepared a very quick beat. Okay, let's just get that closed down. Okay, so we've got a very basic beat running there. But if I, just connect via MIDI so that we're in sync. The MIDI connection came out there. This is running as well. You'll see that the sequencer is running, but because nothing is turned up here, we don't hear anything. As soon as I turn up the audio input here though, I have my circuit sound coming in to the audio input, and I now have the ability to apply the distortions and the filters to this drum sound. And again I can sequence this. And if I just clear those automations that I don't want, it's a really nice way of acting as an audio effects processor as well. Now if I shorten the gate length, so this is just a short note, the effect is only on when this trigger happens. So let me duplicate that into different positions. We can get some nice rhythms occurring now. So it's a really nice way of using the Circuit Mono Station not only as an analog synthesizer with a sequencer attached, but also as a sequencer with audio effects processing as well. So there's the Circuit Mono Station. If you wanted to see or hear a bit more information about the Mono Station, go to the Kytary website where you'll be able to find out any more information. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers.